I am joined now by the Ike head coach of the Georgia Bulldogs baseball team. Baseball's in the air. Coach Stricklin, welcome back on the Hit It to Hoover podcast. It's an honor to talk with you. How's everything going? How's been the offseason for the Georgia Bulldogs?
Yeah, all good, man. Ready to get going, and Mitch, appreciate you having me on, and just getting the guys back into the swing of things. They go home, right after finals week, that first week of December. We don't see them for a month, and as coaches, we're all a little bit leery what we're going to see when they come back. When you got high level players that are really motivated to be great players, you don't concern yourself too much, but you never know. Going home and that couch is really comforting. I know I laid on that couch probably a little bit too much during the break. So my players, it looks like to me the first week back that they're in great shape and they're ready to get after it.
Coach, before I even ask about baseball, it's an exciting time to be a Georgia Bulldog right now. Last time I talked to you, Georgia had won their first national championship in football. Now basketball's turned it around, women's basketball. Talk about that environment in your athletics department right now and how you guys all root for each other.
Yeah, there's no question. We're all pulling for one another, and we're excited about our basketball team. Mike White's done a great job, kind of reinvigorating the basketball program, and so that's got people excited as well. But yeah, what Kirby and his staff and his players have been able to do over the last 2 years has been amazing. And they set a great example for athletic department how to work. They get after it. They really grind it out. And we all do support each other. You'll see Kirby at a lot of games. He's a big baseball fan. His youngest son Andrew is at just about every one of our baseball camps, and he loves it. So they're at baseball a lot. We're obviously at football a lot. In our athletic department, we all support one another. A lot of coaches were able to go out to Los Angeles for the national championship game. I couldn't go out. We had our first team meeting on Sunday night, the night before the national championship game. So I didn't think it was a good idea for me not to be there. So my wife made the trip. She enjoyed it. My daughter's a cheerleader. So we're fully entrenched in Bulldog Nation here. So my wife went out to watch the game, to watch our daughter cheer, and it was a great trip for him.
Coach, speaking of excitement, there's a lot of excitement surrounding your team this year, especially with the return of Cole Tate. Talk about your roster. What have you seen this offseason? 2 scrimmage games against Florida and UAB. What are your takeaways so far about your roster right now?
Well, I think we're really going to hit, and I wish I had Cole Tate back. Cole was our shortstop last year. It's Connor. We got
Connor,
twins,
that's
and
right.
I get him mixed up too. That's the best thing about Cole not being here is I'm not going to confuse him anymore, because in the heat of the moment, man, I've called him the wrong name. But yeah, having Connor back and Ben Anderson, those are 2 sixth-year guys. They both redshirted a year. One because Ben transferred before the transfer portal was in, and he had to sit out a year, and then they both get their COVID year. So both are 6-year players, lots of experience. I think our lineup is going to be very deep from top to bottom. We've got a lot of depth. We've got some guys that can come off the bench. So I think we're going to score some runs. We're excited about a kid that we redshirted last year, Charlie Condon, that I think can hit in the middle of our order and kind of help Parks Harbor and Cole Wagner and Corey Collins and those guys kind of secure that middle of the lineup, and Connor Tate obviously to drive in a lot of runs. So offensively, really like what we have. On the mound, we've got a lot of different pieces, and that's for sure. Jaden Woods, we think, is going to be our Friday night guy. He established himself in the fall. It's just a dynamic talent. It's left-handed. It's up to 96 with a plus slider. And so we feel really good about Jaden. Liam Sullivan has made more strides. He had a very good freshman year and was solid for us last year, and I think he's ready to have a breakout season as a junior. And then that third spot in the rotation is kind of up for grabs. Nolan Crisp threw a lot for us last year and was kind of a jack of all trades for us. Did a little bit of everything, starting, closing, middle relief. He could be that third guy, but we've got 5 freshman arms that we love, that we just think all going to have a chance to all be superstars. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens with those young guys. If someone can separate themselves, and who knows, maybe one of those freshmen jumps into the rotation.
Coach, you stole kind of the next question, but I want to ask you about that performance against Florida. Obviously, 23 strikeouts across your pitching bullpen and your starting rotation. Coach, talk about that depth at pitching just a little bit, and how excited are you about those 5 freshmen that have come in?
Yeah, we do have a lot of depth, and that's the one thing that we've talked about, just the options that we have. And the travel roster is going to be tough to make. You usually only take 13 pitchers, and it's going to be tough to make that travel roster. And we've got a lot of guys that are fighting for innings. We did strike out 23. It's a really good Florida team. We played 10 innings, so there were 30 outs, and we struck out 23 guys. And just really excited to see how those arms continue to develop and get better. And I think that the depth is going to be our strength. We just need a couple guys to step up and be those guys that maybe be unsung superstars. We're not sure yet, but man, we think we got a lot of talent on this staff.
Coach, I want to jump over to the scheduling, and then we're going to have a couple more questions for you. But I want to talk to you about your scheduling. You got a team that you open up with in a month. Jacksonville State's a very good team. Talk about playing your non-conference Georgia Tech, Georgia Southern. What does that do to help you prepare for the SEC slate?
Well, it's a grind, that's for sure. That there are no gimmies, and when you play teams like that, obviously in-state rivals, and there's a lot of emotion on both sides. And Georgia Tech is always really good. Ronnie Hennon is one of the most consistent head coaches in America. They're just always really good. Last year had a breakthrough season, and I think they're going to be really good again. So yeah, it certainly gets us prepared for the SEC, and we don't have any layups. And Jacksonville State opened up. I mean, they're going to be really good, and that's we call them mid majors, but man, they're really talented and well coached. Jim Case is a great coach and a really good friend, and he's got a daughter that's actually a professor at Georgia, so he's been on me for a little while. Like, Coach, I got to get to Athens to play a weekend series, so we got it done. So glad that they're coming over, but they're going to be really good. It's going to be a challenge right out of the gate for sure.
Coach, looking ahead in the schedule a little bit, other than this year's schedule, but looking ahead to Texas and Oklahoma joining the SEC, I didn't get a chance to ask you last year, but what do you think that does for not only just for you guys at Georgia, but for SEC baseball as a whole?
Well, I mean, it just lengthens it out. I mean, gives our footprint a little bigger print in the sand, so to speak. Bringing Texas and Oklahoma, going a little bit further out west, and obviously Texas A&M when they came in a few years ago. It just, I mean, it's a dogfight from beginning to end. Anyone that comes in the SEC, as coaches, actually talk to another coach today. He says, "Hey, you're going to enjoy these next few weeks before we get the grind, because once we get into SEC play, every game is really difficult. But when you get into the SEC, it is every single game is it's a grind. It's an absolute slugfest, and it's not the funnest thing in the world. I mean, you love to compete, you love to get after, but man, it can char your nerves in a hurry. So that's coming up, and the league. I think we're really talented, but everybody in this league is really good, and everyone's undefeated right now. Feels pretty good about their team, but I think you're going to see that this year could be the most talented year we've ever had in the SEC, top to bottom. And then when you add Oklahoma and Texas to the mix, whether it's next year or 2 years, whenever they come in, it's just going to make it that much better.
Coach, looking at this, obviously there's a lot of excitement going on, but I want to ask you in particular. We talked last year about Foley Field, and it being a beautiful ballpark. And I know I asked you last year, but has there been any talks behind the scenes about renovating it, adding seats, and adding more of a student vibe to it out in left field or right field?
Yes, we are going to make that happen after this season, and so it's not officially approved yet, but it's getting ready to go in front of the board. The drawings are all coming back. We've got the funding. It's going to be a major renovation to Foley Field, and it's a beautiful field. It's an unbelievable setting, obviously in a great college town. But yeah, we need to catch up with some of our brothers in this league that have some unbelievable stadiums and venues. So we're excited about what's in front of us. We're anticipating that to start as soon as our season is over. As soon as we play our last home game, hopefully that's a super regional game. And as soon as we're out of there, they're going to start pushing dirt, moving things around, and get this thing to be renovated and just be a beautiful ballpark.
Coach, two more questions I have for you, and staying on the topic of stadiums, I want to ask you. You've been in the league for a little bit. Talk about your favorite visiting stadium that you get to go to as a head coach now.
Yeah, I mean that's a tough one. It's 10 years, so I've seen them all now, and atmosphere wise, I mean obviously in the West you get over there and Arkansas and Ole Miss and Mississippi State and LSU, Texas A&M brings a lot to it. I mean all those venues are really good. If Florida did a really nice job on their new ballpark. To pick one, it's really hard. I'm more of a small town guy, so if I had to pick one, I'd say either Fayetteville or Oxford. They have the same feel as Athens, kind of a college town, a college feel to it. Obviously, beautiful ballparks and big stadiums and huge crowd involvement. But I would say probably those two. But that's not taking anything away from anybody else. But it's if I had to choose, I would say Ole Miss and Arkansas probably my two favorites, just because I like the smaller towns a little better.
You're going to make one of these fan bases where I live near now in Tupelo very happy with that Swayze Field comment. That's it. You got good little brownie points with the Ole Miss faithful, Coach. I appreciate that.
Well, I mean, the dude, man, that stadium's unbelievable. If you're talking just stadiums, that stadium, and also fan bases, Starkville, it's second to none. I think it's the best stadium in the country, and the fan base, I think you'd get in a really good argument when you started getting fan bases with Ole Miss and Mississippi State and LSU and Arkansas and how those fan bases really support them. But you asked where I like to visit the town. I would say the state. If you had to rank the stadiums, I might go Mississippi State one, and then there's several that are right there, real close to it. But favorite place to visit, I will say Oxford and Fayetteville. I like the towns a little better.
Coach, last question I have for you, and again, this is all just progressing, but NIL and obviously Georgia's got a collective just like every other SEC school. How has that impacted your program, and how do you see it impacting here in the near future?
Well, it's here to stay, no matter if you like it or not, and that's what I've kind of heard from some fans. Hey, I really don't like this. Well, tough. It's here. It's not going anywhere. Now there might be some regulations. It may change some, but bottom line is, these players have, sacrificed a lot and they bring in revenue for these universities, and they deserve the opportunity to make some money off themselves. That's all it is. They're making money off their name. Now, the thing that's concerning is some of, I don't know if you can put in a salary cap. I don't know if that's possible. Because we've kind of opened the door. I said it the other day, we opened the door to the submarine. It's pretty hard to close it. The water's coming in, and how do you close it? But it certainly changed things. The thing I like most about it is, we've been strapped with 11.7 scholarships for a long time. So we've been, underrepresented what we can do for our players and their families. So NIL gives us an opportunity to help some of these families out. We've got players that are really good players for us that are technically walk-ons. They don't have scholarship. So for me, it's allowed me to be able to help some of those guys and those families out with giving them some opportunities to work through the NIL and our collective. And our collective does an outstanding job, Classic City Collective, and they help all of our athletes out. I think it's just going to keep expanding. It's part of what we're going to be doing. And I think we just have to change with the times.
He is Coach Stricklin, coach of the Georgia Bulldogs baseball team. Coach, good luck this season. I look forward to seeing you in Oxford in mid-April.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Mitch.